Podcast.
All right. Cool.
Welcome, everyone. We will get started shortly. Thank you for joining us today.
I like your background, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Makes me feel fallish.
Yeah, it's actually, in DC, it's my favorite. We're in DC, and it's my favorite season of the year. So
Mine too.
I'm a very happy person these days.
It felt like fall over the weekend, but it's supposed to be in the 80s here tomorrow. So I'm getting confused.
Really? Wow.
It's probably moving your way. Are you in DC too?
Yeah, we're both in DC. Yeah.
Okay, so that warm weather's probably coming your direction.
Okay. I'll thank you when it gets here.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Link Senior webinar. Today we are providing one free NCAP and or NCC-DP CEU credit. Remember that in order to be eligible for the CEU credit today, you need to remain on the webinar for the full hour. This Zoom meeting room will track how long you remain in the room and will send that as a digital report to me. We are not able to provide CEUs to people who join only by phone. You must be logged into the Zoom room today. At the end of the webinar, I will provide the required post-webinar CEU survey evaluation link in the webinar room chat box, and I will also send it by email this afternoon, so please be sure to check your spam folder in case it lands there. If you don't receive the link this afternoon, please email me right away so I can send it to you directly. I will go ahead and paste my email in the chat box. You do need to fill out that survey no later than midnight Eastern Time this Thursday, October 8th, to be eligible for the CEU credit. And if you're not looking for credit today, we still want your feedback. So please go ahead and fill out the short survey as well. CEU certificates will be issued by email on Friday, October 9th. And again, please check your spam folder that day. You will also receive a PDF of today's slide deck presentation and a recording of today's webinar by email later this afternoon. And we will be live streaming this event in our Activity Strong Facebook group, but for the CEU credit, you need to be registered for the webinar and logged into the Zoom webinar room. I'll now hand it over to Charles DeVillemore, CEO of Link Senior.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. Good day to you. Like Jason and I were talking just a few seconds ago, I hope that you've been enjoying the change of seasons. We're based in Washington, D.C., and I personally love the fall, which is in and by itself a reminder of time that passes. And with that, I did want to pause a little bit and as I often do, thank everyone on the line, thank anyone that is in the senior living industry for your extremely hard work in the face of a challenge of a lifetime. This pandemic has brought losses and challenges for most human beings on the planet. And I think it's important to be reminded that the one industry where things are the most challenging is our industry. And a special thank you for anyone that is in a activity or life enrichment position, because as you might remember from past webinars, we firmly believe that being connected to purpose, this idea of pursuing meaning throughout the day, is a basic human right. And regardless of things and what happens to us, in the end, what you truly are is the defender of this basic human right for our elders, for our residents. So, in the name of the team at Link Senior, and I just want to thank you and pause and recognize how difficult things have been, but also how there might be a lot of exciting things. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm very excited to have today's presenter talk to us about using evidence-based behavior and programming strategies for increasing older adult participation and engagement in physical activity interventions. So today's webinar, if you've never been on a Activity Strong or Linked Senior webinar, is part of a series that, believe it or not, started more than 2 years ago, 2 years and a half ago, sorry, where at Linked Senior we recognized how much there was a need for better engagement, better education for activity and life enrichment director. And our basic assumption, our basic idea is the more you guys have access to quality education such as today, the better you're going to be equipped to perform your job, which, in the end is really matching your passion, which is to engage the older adults, your residents. So we obviously are in the business of promoting the highest level of well-being for our residents, and we believe that any second and every minute or hour that we spend empowering you would result directly in an increase of quality of life of residents. So we've been very fortunate through the years now to have incredible speakers from all sorts of different way of life and interests, national, international speakers. But I think that in the end, some of the ones that have been the most successful are ones that were recommended by you, the audience. So if you feel that we're missing something, or if you know of someone that could be a good speaker, please point them our way, and we review every and all suggestions, so please do that. I have to talk a little bit about Linked Senior just because we promote and we manage these these webinar series. As I said, my name is Charles Vermoyen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of this company called Linked Senior, and we're based in Washington, D.C. And essentially, we provide a resident engagement platform. So we service independent living, assisted living, memory care, and nursing home. And we allow you to do your work in a more efficient way, to engage all of your residents, and actually use your passion these days to fight isolation, put it simply. We're very proud of our work to the point where we are the only platform that has been, whose work has been analyzed for more than a year in a study that was then published in a peer-reviewed journal. And all of these outcomes in resident engagement are things that we should actively be contributing or working towards. And obviously these days, in the light of COVID and social isolation, this 20% increase in social engagement is obviously very meaningful. So with that, Linked Senior is also the organization behind the Old People Are Cool campaign that was started, 4 years ago, something like that. Very fun campaign, all about anti-ageism and promoting the idea that old people are cool, like anyone else in our society. And obviously with COVID, we saw a huge need to empower, acknowledge, and educate activity and life enrichment directors, which is why we started this campaign called Activity Strong. So that's the background on us. I'm really excited for today's presentation for many different reasons, but I'll just try to name a few. One, we talk to providers every single day, and I think that most, if not all of them, recognize the deep need today to promote engagement and especially physical type of activity, which is obviously the domain of expertise of today's presenter, Jason Crandall. He's also a very close friend to, some of you might remember, Dr. Jennifer Taylor, who came and did a webinar for us just a few weeks ago, which was by far one of the best webinars this year. And the third reason is, I think, I can't see it because of my Zoom images, but I'm sure that Jason is going to talk about it. He has a program called Bingo Exercise, and some of you might know, but I personally love bingo. I actually wrote a blog article on it, I think in July. But very excited for today's presentation. And actually, I think Jason is one of the first, actually, if not the first, to be one of our speakers on this and promoting the idea of physical wellness. So it's a great way for us to complement our offering. So thank you, Jason, for coming today. Myself, simply I started Link Senior a few years ago. I believe that all people are cool and that our industry, the senior living industry, is activity strong. I'd like to just mention a couple of things, which is, and this is going to serve as an introduction to Jason's presentation, is, we're still navigating this COVID-19, experience, pandemic, and what it means for us. But I think that there's a number of things that we now know of, which is, this, regardless of what is thrown at us, I can't be prouder of working with people like you, activity and life enrichment directors. You've shown a level of resilience that, if I can make a parallel, I would love my kids, I have 4 kids, I would love my kids to, in their lives, show half of what you guys have done. You should all be proud of what you've done throughout the crisis, coming out of this crisis, and the level of innovation and creativity that you've shown in, at one point, fighting the virus, but then learning how to live with its consequences. It makes me proud just to be part of this industry. So thank you for that. Congratulations. Now, obviously, we're no way near out of this, and I know, because I talk to many of you every single day, it's very difficult, and these times are stressful because we might be reopening, but not know even actually what's going to happen in a week or two, right? There's a risk of our residents that we want to balance with this idea of purpose, and there's a big risk just for the health of us, our family, our teams, and our residents. So good luck navigating that. I think that this resilience and opportunity is also felt here in this survey that we've been promoting, which is 93% of us believe that we're going to get out stronger. So today is one of these days where we don't try to question, is it or is it not? We really kind of ask ourselves how, right? And so today's the day where we're going to learn from Jason Crandall, how do we get out stronger of this? Obviously from a programming standpoint, but also from a physical standpoint, ourselves and our residents. So with that, this is an invitation for us to kind of really dig deep in today's speaker, kind of really take it all on, and really think about how can I take this learning experience and apply it directly as soon as tomorrow or in the coming days to increase the quality of life of our residents. So with that, I want to thank you for joining, and Jason, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and make you the host so you can take us through your wonderful presentation.
All right.
Here you go, you're the host.
All right. Bear with me for just a second.
Sure. If you just share your screen, you should be good to go.
I think sharing my screen. Sorry, having an issue with the screen.
No problem.
Still having a problem. I apologize.
It's okay. I mean, if you want, I can share my screen and we can use my slides. I mean, the slides from my...
That might be the thing we need to do. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. Okay. So here we go. Let me just find the deck. And here we go. Just, if you don't mind, just tell me when you want me to advance the slides, and we're good to go.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for inviting me today. I'm very, very excited to be here. And I want to echo Charles's kudos to everyone out there who is really doing an incredible job with all the older adults in this very, very trying time. And so what I'm hoping to do today is just talk a little bit about physical activity and exercise and how it can be a real benefit to your residents and as well as to yourselves. And we'll talk a little bit about how that can happen as we go through. So I'm a gerokinesiologist, which you may not have ever heard of before. But basically, I study exercise, human movement, specifically for older adults. So that's my thing, is working with older adults and physical activity. You can go, you can move on. You can go ahead, okay. So what I would like to do today, I got 3 learning outcomes today. First one is I really want to talk about some of the benefits of physical activity that, and many of these you're probably going to be familiar with, some maybe not. I'm going to go in a little bit more detail about some that you might not be that familiar with. So I'd like you to learn at least 3 physical, social, and cognitive benefits. I'm also going to talk about some behavioral techniques and some community-based strategies that I think you can use in your facilities to actually better engage older adults in physical activity. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some evidence-based programs that are available that you might be able to use as soon as possible. Okay, next. So I've very much realized that when you're working with older adults, and you guys know as well as I do, that they're very heterogeneous, meaning they're very different. And so the physical and cognitive abilities of older adults varies greatly. And it varies greatly across the spectrum of care. So really depending on where older adults are living, whether they're still community dwelling, assisted living, long-term care. I know many of you are in the long-term care area, and that's your focus. And I'm going to kind of talk along the spectrum of care, because it's important when you're talking about physical activity and exercise to keep in mind this heterogeneity and the abilities of older adults. Next. So I think the first concept that we really need to talk about with exercise and physical activity and older adults is this thing called physiological reserve, because it's really the key to an increased health span. And this is really older adults across the spectrum. And because it's so important, because it really helps us to keep older adults independent, mobile, and functional. And that's what they want to do. They want to be independent, functional, and mobile. And so let's talk a little bit about more what this physiological reserve concept is next. So it's easiest to understand this by really using an example. So in this example, we're talking about being able to climb a flight of steps. And so when we're younger and we're more fit and we've got that on our side, we have plenty of capacity. In this case, it's going to be leg strength and power. We have plenty of capacity to be able to climb this set of steps. But as we grow older and we don't do much, meaning in this case, exercise and physical activity, then we start to lose that capacity. So the stable cylinder here represents, a period of time has passed where now we're not as capable. We've lost some leg strength, but we can still climb those steps. But that yellow piece there, that physiological reserve, is what we have left in the tank. So that's after we've been able to climb the steps, we would still have a little bit of extra, or that reserve left to be able to accomplish that task. Now let's fast forward, and so we're continuing to lose leg strength, and so now the vulnerable cylinder there represents a situation where now we've lost so much muscle strength that we have very little reserve left, meaning we're getting very close. There's a warning sign here that we're getting very close to not being able to climb those set of steps anymore. And then that last cylinder there this is not good, because now we've lost so much leg strength, we have no reserve left, which leads us to not being able to climb those set of steps. So the bottom line is we really need to maintain as much capacity as we possibly can, because then we can continue to do what we'd like to do. And that's going to vary across that spectrum of care, right? Whatever situation we're in, we want to be able to continue to be as functional as we possibly can. So that's from community dwelling all the way to those folks who are living in long-term care. Next. Next. So this has really been never more important, especially in those long-term care facilities where I know many of you are, and you know this as well as anybody, that because of COVID restrictions, there's been very little activity. Activity has been extremely difficult. And this recent study just came out showing, and this is up in Chicago, I don't know if some of you are up in Chicago right now, but in a facility up there, they looked at residents' body weight before restrictions and after restrictions. And as you can see, residents lost about 3.68 pounds. The difference was more at the end of the restrictions. So the possible explanations, reduced physical activity was one thing they suggested, which is highly likely. Less mealtime conversations, which meant less social interactions, less social engagements. We know that that can definitely lead to reduced caloric intake. And so likely much of that weight that they lost was due to sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass due to the aging process. So as a gerokinesiologist, that's a real focus that we have, is to try to lessen the effects of sarcopenia throughout the age span. So of course, we got to have some countermeasures to try to stop that. Physical activity and exercise is definitely something that we need to try our best to employ to try to negate those reductions. Next. Well, the question becomes, how much physical activity do we need? So this represents the actual recommendations for all adults, regardless of age. So what is recommended is 150 minutes of moderate to intense aerobic activity combined with a couple of weeks of muscle strengthening activity. Again, this is across the lifespan for all adults. So that's what we need to really reduce chronic disease risk. Next. So specifically focusing in on older adults, okay? Those recommendations are the same for older adults, but there are some key guidelines that we look at for older adults overall. Keeping in mind that the spectrum of care is going to really determine what we do. So next. So here's some key guidelines, right? We want to try to keep physical activity a part of an older adult's week using multi-component physical activity that includes balance training. Balance training is key, aerobic activity, and muscle strengthening activities. We also want to make sure that older adults determine the level of effort that they're going to put forth in that physical activity. We need to give them that choice. We also need to understand that older adults with chronic conditions need to be able to do regular physical activity safely. So we have to make sure that we understand those conditions when we're encouraging them to be physically active. And then that 150 minutes of activity that's recommended, that's a guideline. That's what we're shooting for. But really, we want them to be as physically active as they possibly can be. And that's going to vary based on each individual. Next. So that brings us to some good news. Back in 2008, when these recommendations were designed, at that point we said, look, we need 150 total minutes per week, which works out to about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. But at that point we said, look, unless you're getting 10 minutes of continuous activity, it's worthless. You don't even need to do it. Well, lately we was like, I'm not sure that's right. So then they reviewed all of the data and finally figured out that we can get just as little as 1 or 2 minutes of exercise and physical activity. And that can contribute towards that 150 minutes. So next. So every minute counts, right? That's a really important concept when we are talking about older adults, specifically in long-term care. So it doesn't have to be 30 total minutes. It could be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We just want to try to incorporate that throughout their day in as any ways that we can. Next. So specifically thinking about long-term care, because I know the majority of you are in long-term care. In 2016, there was a task force put together to really look at and review all the data that focused on exercise and physical activity for long-term care residents, because there really hadn't been a lot. There really wasn't many guidelines there for those types of facilities. So they came up with two sets of recommendations. One set was really focused on just reducing overall sedentary behaviors in all the residents. And the second was looking at a defined specific guidelines for different subgroups within the facilities. So we'll talk about the first one next. So that first one, really just reducing overall sedentary behavior. So, believe it or not, there hasn't been a lot of data looking at sedentary behavior and physical activity in those long-term care facilities. But it's really important, obviously, because they're spending a lot of their waking time being very sedentary. So the recommendations were, let's try to get residents to sit and stand, if they're capable, as much as they possibly can in the morning, and then maybe try that in the afternoon as well. Organized group activities were recommended: gardening, dancing, walking green spaces. Hallway activities, I know, are something that a lot of you are trying to use right now, especially when residents are isolated in their rooms. A lot of facilities that I work with, that's what they're doing now. And so they're being very creative. And then, of course, new technologies like exergames have also been widely used. The key is, whatever it is, whatever type of physical activity you are trying to get your residents to do, it has to be pleasurable and it has to be motivational. Those are key aspects for increasing overall activity levels. So we got to try to build that fun and physical activity into the day and just make it fun. That's a key piece. Next. And then the second recommendation really focused on people who are a little bit more functional. So they may still be dependent on their basic ADLs, but they're still able to ambulate, still able to rise from a chair with or without assistance. And they even could have some cognitive decline, including dementia. So those recommendations are very similar to those initial recommendations we just talked about. Multi-component exercise, strength, balance, endurance, active range of motion, that's critical, and moderate intensity, at least 35 to 45 minutes per week, a couple of times a week. That's the goal. Again, motivation and pleasure are key. Social support, really, really important, right? It's kind of an overarching theme here with Link Senior and what we're talking about. Stimulating and exciting environment, and including family if possible. It's a really important key as well. Next. So integrating that active lifestyle. So standing and walking should be maintained as much as possible with each resident. I know sometimes wheelchairs are often assigned to residents who, are on the borderline with their endurance, strength, and balance deficits. And I recognize fully that falls are a real problem in facilities. And so sometimes we're really conservative when it comes to this. But if at all possible, we need to try to keep them as mobile and active as we can, because that's only going to precipitate that physical decline the more and more and more we do for them. So if we do that, then the resident's definitely going to continue to go down when it talks about endurance, strength, and balance. So that's a real key, is to try to get them as active as we possibly can. Next. So what are the benefits? Next, that's the next. Yeah. So what are the benefits? Sorry. Next slide, sorry. So what are the benefits? You guys are very familiar with a lot of the benefits of physical activity. It's been harped on and harped on and harped on. I wanted to just show you some of the things that I have personally been able to find in my research. So in the studies that I have done, These are some of the improvements that I have seen and we've been able to document. So gait improvements, which helps with walking. SPBB scores, that's just a battery of tests that looks at functional fitness. Lower body strength, upper body strength, cardiorespiratory endurance, balance is key. We've even improved health knowledge. So knowledge of fall risk, knowledge of nutrition, health activation. So their ability to understand and how to deal with their own health. And then I think one of the most important findings, and this is a real key, is executive function, which is a measure of cognition. So that's one benefit I really want to focus on today. So next. So cognitive benefits of physical activity. Next. So what we're going to talk about now is specifically cognitively normal older adults. So these are older adults who aren't suffering from dementia, any form of dementia or MCI. These are just people who they're aging, and with the aging process, we can expect there to be some decrement in cognitive level. Now, can physical activity and exercise help to slow that down? Absolutely. There is definitely moderate evidence to show that long-term exercise can actually slow this down. So this is important for everybody, right? Young, old, middle-aged. If we are physically active, and what we're finding is at least a couple of hours a week for about 6 months, you will see improvements in cognition. We'll be able to slow that rate of decline. Next. So what's even more exciting is to look at those folks who are going from cognitively normal, diagnosed with MCI, and then maybe even progress on to Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. So when we talk about physical activity, we talk about from an interventions perspective and from basically a treatment perspective. So next. So when we're looking at prevention, we definitely know there is some very strong evidence that long-term exercise, particularly aerobic type exercise, but even resistance training can have this effect. We can see improvements in cognition. So what happens is we see increases in the size of the frontal lobe, we see increases in the hippocampus of the brain. Those are both areas of the brain that are really important for memory and learning. So that's a really key thing. Next. So the other question is, when you're looking at someone who's already been diagnosed, what does the evidence say about intervening in that process? Not quite as strong evidence, it's only moderate. Next. It's moderate evidence at this point, but we have seen some improvements in areas of cognition even with those folks who are suffering from MCI and other types of dementia. So that's an encouraging thing as well. Next. So we're kind of circling back to this whole physiological reserve thing. So thinking about why exercise and physical activity can help maintain and even improve cognition, it's kind of one of the ideas is what we call cognitive reserve. Cognitive reserve. So what we think happens is if you are participating in exercise on a long-term basis, that and you're participating in other engaging activities, that you are building up a cognitive reserve in your brain, that even if you are starting to grow older and experience normal cognitive aging, or even if you are diagnosed with MCI and maybe ultimately dementia, then you have a cognitive reserve that allows you to continue to function the way that you want to for a much longer period of time. So very, very important that not only is exercise and physical activity really great for us physically, but cognitively, it can work miracles. It's one of the only real interventions that we know can improve and maintain cognition. Next. Other benefits, sleep, and I know this is a really important issue for those in long-term care. So we definitely know that being social and social participation can really lead to improved sleep, right? We see lower levels of wake time after sleep onset, fewer wake bouts, decreased sleep fragmentation. So just being social. But now let's take exercise, which we know can improve sleep. Let's combine that with social, and now we've got the dynamic duo. Now we're definitely going to see some improvements in sleep patterns, which helps everyone. Next. So those were just a couple of focused benefits, but there's a lot more that we can get from physical activity. However, the big question becomes, we all know that physical activity and exercise is really good for us. We know that. But from a behavioral standpoint, we know that people just aren't doing it. And so we really need to talk about what are some ways that we can motivate older adults to be physically active. Next. Well, here's that data. We know they're not doing it, right? So this is data from 2017, older adults 65 plus who meet those recommendations we talked about earlier, right? 150 minutes of aerobic activity, a couple of days a week of strength training. So I know there's people on here from all over the country. I'm in Kentucky, and so that's not a good thing right now if you're an older adult, because we are not doing a very good job. We're at about 11.6% of our older adults are getting enough exercise, which is really, really bad. As a nation, we're looking at about 17.6%. So you can kind of look at where you're located and see how you're doing. Looks like the West Coast, the West is doing much better than us over in the Midwest and the East. So again, this is a real issue. Next. So what is it about exercise that's really, that people really just don't want to do? This is a really important psychological concept. It's called the competence environmental press model, right? Fancy name, but basically what it is it looks at why do people can start exercise and why do they continue? Well, next. Over here on the y-axis, you've got competence. And competence we're going to define as the ability to be physically active, the ability to understand information. And so you got this, at the top, you've got an active older adult. So those people who are still out and about, active, doing their own thing, exercising, and they're fit. And down at the bottom, we have, next, we have those sedentary older adults, or those folks who are in long-term care, so who do not have that competence. They do not have maybe have the physical ability that those active older adults have. Next. So down here on the x-axis, it's called environmental press, but basically all that is the level of exercise and the level of information you're going to be giving these individuals. And really the whole idea here is to get them to a maximal performance for that particular individual. So if you give a sedentary older adult, you make them do more than they're capable of doing, then they're not going to respond, right? They're not going to be adaptive. They're not going to be, next. They're not going to be in the, what I call the sweet spot, right? They're not going to get, They're not going to be where that star is. That's where we want them to be. We want them to adapt and positively. We don't want to be maladaptive. We want them to continue to progress and be more physically active and to learn. So the key to that is simply, you got to make sure that whomever you're working with, the group that you're working with, that you don't push them too hard, and if they're really reactive, too little. Next. So what is it about these exercise folks, these older adults, that's kind of holding them back? Well, in 2016, Devereaux and Fitzgerald reviewed thousands of papers looking at why do older adults do exercise? What is it about? What is it that they actually like? Next. So what they found was Whatever the intervention is, it has to be capable of overcoming their doubts and fears. It's got to be able to create social connections. There's that social connection again. Led by knowledgeable instructors, so they need to feel like the person knows what they're doing because they're already scared. And then again, enjoyable and fun. You got to have that piece. Next. So some other researchers pretty much found the same thing. Fear. They didn't want to participate because they felt like of poor health, that they really wouldn't benefit from it. Again, lack of guidance and lack of opportunity. So making sure that they have know things that they can actually do to be more physically active. Next. Now, what motivates them? Because that's what we want to know, right? We want to know what motivates them. So lots of data shows this. Older adults who are physically active have to feel like what they're doing is going to improve their health. So just telling them what exercise and physical activity can do for them will make a big difference. Being very, very specific. It's not, yeah, it's going to increase your arm strength. Great. But what does increased arm strength mean for you or mean for them when it comes to their daily lives and what they want to be able to do? The guidance, again, they got to feel like somebody, whoever's leading them knows what they're doing. They got to have fun. And then finally, socialization. Here it is again. There has to be social. Specifically, one real important psychological concept that works is self-identity. So older adults really like to be a part of the group. And so if there's any way possible that you can create a situation where they feel a part of the exercise group that you're putting together, that works really, really well. So you can see these folks in this picture, they all have the same t-shirts on. So that really brings them together and they really feel like a part of the group, so then they're going to be more likely to come back and actually do more exercise. Next. I think another really important strategy that's worked for me and a lot of the facilities that I work with is community-based engagement. And I know a lot of you probably do this, but if you're not, I highly recommend this to you, is to reach out to your local universities and even high schools and ask them if they would like to help you with your physical activity programs. I know as a faculty member myself who's teaching future physical therapists, they're looking for all the experience that they can get. And so, and that goes across disciplines, nursing, social work, exercise science, speech pathology. They all are looking for experiences for their students. So, and they're doing it in different ways. They're doing it within their courses, within practicums, internships, research. And so it's a really nice resource for you to be able to bring these young people into the facility, because we know intergenerational relationships are amazing. They're amazing. And I've seen some amazing results when I'm sending students into facilities. And you can see there's just a couple of pictures of my students who are in facilities. And the students get a lot out of it, and the older adults just love it. And it's a really, in my experience, has been a key to increasing physical activity for a lot of these older adults, because they will lead and be more motivated by these younger adults. So it's a really key tool that I've used in the past, and I highly suggest it. Next. So finally, now that we understand some of the benefits, we understand some of the techniques that can be used, what are some programs that are available that can help you to do that? Next. So these are some evidence-based programs that are out there, and there's several more. These specifically are evidence-based. They're approved by the National Council on Aging. I know many of them are really focused on more community dwelling, maybe even assisted living folks, not so much on the long-term care. And in fact, there's not a lot of evidence-based programs on the long-term care side. So there's minimal programs available. But these right here are some of the most prominent programs that are available for assisted living and community dwelling. So Matter of Balance is a real popular program. Stanford's Chronic Disease Self-Management. The CDC has Go for Life, and then there's another one called Enhanced Fitness. So I would recommend, if you're interested, to look these up. These are great programs. I have a program that I have evidence-based that I'd like to talk a little bit about that I'm going to show next. So I created this program called Bingo Size, and as the name implies, it is a combination of bingo and exercise. And so this came about, I will tell you, came about when I asked my students to go to a facility and create an exercise program, and it didn't work because everybody was down the hall playing bingo. So I said, if you can't beat them, join them. So I put those two things together, and you know, the rest is history, really, because we've got lots of research on this. It's evidence-based. I think a really important component to the program is it really can be used across the spectrum of care. Next. Next. And next. So you can see the program has been used all across. So independent living, assisted living, and even in long-term care. In Kentucky, we've had the program in probably 30 facilities, down in Tennessee up to 100, and that's continuing to increase. Next. So I'd like to show you a little bit about what this looks like in skilled nursing. So you can click the video there, Charles. We might need to start the sound. Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all ready for the seated mermaid? Go side to side, stretch your sides out. You got it. Already tired. You got it. Now she's going to have you touch your thumb with each finger bone. Yeah, you're a pro at this one.
I'm sorry.
I'm always happy. Oh, good. I don't have anything to say. Be curious. Is it the right leg?
Okay, Charles, you can stop it. So that gives you some idea of what the program looks like. As you can see, people are smiling, having a good time. There's a social component to it, and they're actually doing some exercise. So that's the key. Next. So I think one benefit, and I think this is important regardless of which program you use, is trying to get as many staff as you possibly can involved. So these are just some quotes from some of the staff who have used this program. And so they've used it in dementia care, with restorative care. They've had the physical therapist involved. And of course, they comment a lot about how people laugh and have a good time. And then they've definitely involved the residents and families. So that's an important piece as well. Next. So I know we don't have a lot of time. So this is another video that shows the program in assisted and independent living. So a little bit different look in that facility because people have a little bit more functional ability. And so the exercises are different. We use resistance bands, we use stress balls, and again, the same kind of concept. Next. So I know I've talked a lot about in-face, person-to-person contact, and I know right now that is a real problem. And so we've had people that are getting really, really creative. I mentioned hallway bingo size earlier. I mentioned other ways other technology that's being used to keep people active. We've had a lot of organizations that have used the remote delivery of the program because we do have a mobile app that can be used. And then we've used some combinations of the mobile app and the kind of the offline version. As you can see, we've got some people that have been participating here in this screenshot of Zoom. So it is available to be done remotely as well. Next. So that concludes my presentation. Hopefully you've learned a few things about the benefits of physical activity. You've learned about some motivational techniques, and then give you some options for some programming as well. And again, I want to reemphasize how I appreciate what everyone does. And I know it's a very difficult situation, and I would be happy to help as much as I possibly can to kind of give you some direction in your specific situations if you're looking for other ways to get your residents to be more physically active.
Thanks so much, Jason. This was a fantastic presentation. I love your reminder that any minute counts. I think that these days there's no better reminder and probably important message, right? Any minute counts. We have a number of questions, but because of the time, there's one which is really comes from what we see is that staff is spread super thin, like they literally don't have time in many cases to engage all residents. What do we do in this case? What is the one exercise that you think has the biggest bang for your buck in terms of staff efficiency?
I think if possible, of course, standing and sitting is an extremely important activity. It is the one thing when I'm talking to my students, is the one thing that I tell my students, look, we've got to make sure that older adults are able to sit and stand because it's such an important activity, right? To remain independent and mobile. So if they can at least have them to, they may not be able to stand, but at least to try to stand, that's going to have a positive impact. So that, to me, that would be one of the most important things. And again, going back to what you said earlier about every minute counts. And so if they're only doing 2 or 3, that's fine. It's definitely going to contribute to that overall effect. And that time constraint is always a really important thing. And it's an important thing to keep in mind. And it's one reason I wanted to mention about reaching out to the community for people who are looking to help you. I know it's an issue bringing them into the facilities right now. Although I have had students and faculty who have connected through telehealth. And so they're helping to lead programming that way. And I'm sure Link Senior can help with that as well. So that's another important concept. It has really helped a lot of facilities that I have communicated with to help with the staffing problem specifically.
Yeah. Okay, so standing and sitting, just that helps. That's great. Thanks a lot, Jason. Another question was about, do you have any specific recommendation for like the time of the day? Is it, we know that usually it's bad to avoid just before sleeping, but besides that, any other recommendations?
There's been quite a bit of research looking at what time of day is best to exercise. Not so much in older adults, amazingly. So, but it really comes down to, I'm a morning person, so I prefer to exercise in the morning. My wife is an evening person, so she prefers to do it in the evening. So I think every individual is going to be a little bit different. One thing that we do with bingo size is we try to schedule bingo size around the regular bingo game. And so that way they're already excited about bingo, but then we kind of either do bingo size before or after the regular bingo game, which will get them excited about exercise. So that's just one approach that we take.
Somebody by the name of Marty Doring is asking, who's your main point of contact in the community? Do you train directly the activity director, or do you partner with the therapy team as well with big exercise? Yeah,
we will partner with mainly the activity directors if we're talking specific about long-term care, if it's going to be in the senior center, it's going to be with the senior directors, but mostly the activity staff. But we are trying more and more and more, as I mentioned, we're trying to get the restorative folks and the therapy folks to be more involved. In fact, many of our long-term care facilities have partnered with the PTs and the OTs who bring their patients to programming, because we do basically the same things that they're wanting their patients to do. So it's been a really good collaboration between those folks and the activity people.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you so much for your presentation today. I think it's extremely, I mean, it's always relevant, right? It's always been relevant, but especially these days to just for you to just boil it down to simple things for us to understand. And you've given us some very practical examples of what could be done. So for example, again, this standing, sitting, just that helps. And I love, again, the reminder of any minute that counts. Folks, as Jason has kindly presented, you know, obviously one of the reasons why we wanted to bring him is this deep expertise on this very important topic, but it's also an invitation to have a look at other programs, including his, right? Because his is definitely evidence-based, and we've heard the numbers. We have in Kentucky, I think, over 30 or 50 communities using it successfully, and quite a few more in Tennessee. So it's proven to work. So, and plus, again, I like bingo, so just by that, you got me there. So everyone, thanks again for joining us today. Jason, thank you again for this fantastic presentation. I just have a couple announcements, as I always have at the end of this webinar, so bear with me just a few minutes. Some of them are actually pretty important. One of them is a lot of you have requested through the chat, through our Facebook groups, that we have different ways for us to mingle and meet other activity directors. And so what we did is that we started doing these huddles, and they were at 1 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and we got good response, but mostly that the timing was not great. So what we decided is to change the time, and so the next one is going to be on Zoom right after our webinar on October 20th, which is with Karen Love of, and so the idea is that if ever you're interested in meeting other people like you, we're going to use Zoom, we're going to break out the rooms, you're going to be able to meet people, and Lori Presser kindly is going to be semi-moderating it, but the whole idea is just for you guys to spend time together with other people across the nation going through the same challenges, and hopefully to exchange a little bit, a few ideas here. One other thing also that we started recently that has been a great success is many of you have asked for a quick and easy way to learn more about Link Senior, right? Like Jason mentioned, there's many ways Link Senior can help. And if you're not ready to just meet with us, you know, just feel free to jump into one of our open demos. So apologies for not updating this slide here. But we have demos every Wednesday afternoon, so in our follow-up, feel free to sign up. It's 30 minutes, and you'll just learn the basic, the purpose, the power, and the promise of Link Senior, and what we do to help you engage your residents. So with that, as a reminder, we also launched this extremely important tool called RICE, the Resident Engagement Index Score, which helps us understand how good our organization is about resident engagement. So it's data that we can use internally to celebrate success, but also see how we can create goals. So that is on the activitystrong.com website. And as always, we're very busy, very active, trying to find many other ways to try to help you. One of them is our activitystrong.com website, where you'll see different events and our gatherings. So the next one here, obviously, is the one on December 1st, is all going to be focused on how we plan programs, right? The one in September was focusing on how we get to know our residents. The next stage in delivery of programs is planning. So that's going to be the focus. Again, please register on our website through Facebook, and let us know if you have any questions. I'm extremely excited by our upcoming presenters. So, as I said, on October 20th, we have Karen Love from the Dementia Action Alliance. Now, let me tell you something super cool about this one presentation, is that Karen is helping us bring to Zoom to you through this webinar 2 individuals living with dementia who are going to share about their experiences and how we can all learn on how to serve them better, collaborate with them, and hopefully help us understand how we can help our residents that live with dementia live at their best despite of COVID. On Tuesday, November 3rd, we're bringing 2 clients of ours to share about their leadership and their successes navigating COVID. And on Tuesday, November 17th, we have Vicki de Klerk-Ruben, who's with the Validation Training Institute, which is going to be really focusing on, gaining empathy, which is, it's really crucial, especially in a time of COVID-19, is gaining empathy and how we help people, our older adults, live their behavior expression, helping them through behavior expressions. And so that's going to be on Tuesday, November 17th. So with that, I want to thank everyone on the phone, on the line today. Jason, again, thanks for joining. As a reminder, all of you, I'm going to just leave this slide here because many of you wanted to get in touch with Jason. Feel free to reach out if you have any question on the different ideas and especially the Bing exercise. Thank you, Jason. And Megan, I'll let you cover the couple admin items, and we'll take it from there. Sure.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Charles. Just a reminder to everyone in the webinar room that I have placed the CEU survey link in the chat box.